Hello, greetings from Colorado Springs. Today I'd like to provide you a market update. It's October 2025. This is our market update on the rental market in Colorado Springs. First, I want to kind of capture what led up to this. So in 2021 through about 2023, there was high demand for rental properties and there wasn't a lot of inventory. So we could list a property. We've had multiple applications for that property before we ever did any showings. We do showings and then we start processing applications for those properties. There was a high demand, low inventory. We had regular rent increases for nearly a decade leading up to 2023. So owners, housing providers got very used to rent increases every time you turned over, a rent increase at lease renewal. And then in mid-2024, we started to see a slowdown, and the market has continued to be slow. And what's happened is we have more inventory and less demand. We'll get that in a second. But some of the indicators of the slow market is inventory now is over 5,000 units in Colorado Springs that are available for lease. 1,000 plus single family homes and 4,000 plus apartments. What that does is it increases days on market because there's a lot more supply than there is demand. So we're seeing 45, 60 days, sometimes longer on the market, listed for lease, with people viewing it, going through listings, perhaps applying, hopefully applying. So it's a tenants market. The tenants have a lot of options. Why is that? I had mentioned supply and demand earlier. So we have a high supply and steady or maybe decreasing demand. So there's a high supply. Back in 2022 and 2023, there were a bunch of permits pulled to build additional, mostly multifamily rental units. Because there was such high demand, enterprising companies looked at that and said, well, we're going to meet some of that demand. They pulled permits, they started building apartments. And so there are, like I said on the first slide, over 4,000 apartments that are available for lease in the Colorado Springs market. But it doesn't just impact multifamily. It impacts both single family and multifamily markets, because what I think we're seeing is that people who maybe had a dog, and so they typically would look for a single family home, so they have some yard space, they got some place for the dog to run, maybe they got a fence, and so he can go in and out as he pleases, or as the dog pleases. But some of these new apartment buildings, many of them, they have a lot of amenities. And one of the amenities that they provide is a dog run or a dog play area. They might have a dog shower in the basement, so you got a place to take your pet and you can wash them, designed for taking care of your pet instead of doing it in your bathtub or in your sink. And additionally, they have rooftop patios and fire pits and different parties for the residents. They have gyms, some of them have pools. So there's a lot of amenities. And then so what I think we're seeing is a crossover between people who would have normally looked for a single family home, but they can find something appealing in a brand new apartment or close to brand new apartment. And so they're kind of transitioning from single family to multifamily rentals. We also have mortgage rates that remain higher than the past, and so people are holding on to their homes. What does that mean for you, the owner? So that translates to lower rent rates, few, if any, increases at turnover. So a lot of times we're not recommending increases when we're offering lease renewals. And in most cases, we're recommending to owners that you don't increase the rent at renewal. And when we list a property for rent, if you had somebody in there for 2 or 3 years and regular rent increases, the starting point for that property when we list it for a new lease may be lower than what you were getting before. That's the market. So we're also seeing incentives. So this started in the multifamily market because there was such overbuilding with move-in specials, waiving fees for move-in, and now we're seeing up to 2 months free rent in some of these apartment complexes. What you can do as the owner or as a landlord, a housing provider, is your property has to show well. It needs to be clean and fresh and updated. So look at your flooring, look at your carpet. How's the paint on the walls, or the windows clean? Is everything fresh and new as best you can? So there's a lot of competition and there's multiple viewings. So what we've seen, talking about multiple viewings, is maybe maybe a family's narrowed it down, like we want to live in this neighborhood. Well, there's 18 single-family homes that are all pretty similar available in that neighborhood. And so they might go see 6, 8, 10 of those, and then they narrow it down to 2 or 3, and they're back multiple times. So we're not just meeting their needs, but we're also they're looking at their wants. Well, this has a nicer yard, or this place has a finished basement, or this one has a 3-car garage. Those kind of things are being differentiators. Whereas, in the previous market, I talked about 21, 22, 23. Those weren't necessarily factors because there was such demand and low inventory. A lot of times a prospective tenant was taking the first thing that met all of their needs. So we recommend considering move-in incentives, considering reduced rent, aggressive rent decreases to keep you in the market, to keep interest, and renew. If you're renewing a lease, do it without an increase. Be pet or animal friendly. Our estimation is 80% of renters in Colorado Springs have a pet of some kind. And then be flexible. Take your PM's advice. So we put up a slide, and it's a capture from Zillow. I know it's not 100% of the rentals in Colorado Springs, but it's a good thumbnail or a thumbnail sketch or a snapshot of what's available. And if you look at 2023, back then we had just over 660 single-family homes on the market. Now we have 1,100, so almost double what we had 2 years ago. Apartments and condos in 2023, just over 500 available on the market. And today, or last week, 4,471. So almost 4,000 more apartments available on the rental market in Colorado Springs than 2 years ago. And totals, back in 2023, this time of year, it was 1,300 available rentals. This year, 6,111. So that's just a quick snapshot of kind of where the market's at in Colorado Springs. If you have any questions, please reach out. You can find us on our website, contact your property manager. Hope this was helpful. Have a great day.